I saw it before anyone said a word. The place card at the end of the table, handwritten in a rushed, messy scrawl. It didn't say my name. It didn't say Mara. It said needs assistance. Just that. 2 words. A label. A box. A placeholder. As if I were a malfunctioning object in the middle of an otherwise curated event. For a few seconds, I thought it had to be a mistake. Someone mixed up the cards. Someone forgot to print mine. Someone, except deep down I knew better. You don't put a card that vague in gold cursive beside the patio exit by accident. It wasn't just careless. It was deliberate. They wanted me out of the photo line, out of the spotlight, out of the picture entirely. The air inside the rehearsal dinner smelled like eucalyptus and wine. The venue, a minimalist chic rooftop loft in downtown Portland, was all glass and gloss and gold-toned lighting, the kind of place meant to look timeless in wedding albums. A woman with a clipboard smiled at me as I wheeled in, her eyes flicking down to the chair and darting away. I nodded politely and kept moving. Everyone else had place cards with their names printed in a classy serif font, tucked into little holders shaped like olive leaves. My sister Sierra's was centered at the table, naturally next to Grant's, and their names gleamed like magazine covers. My mom Denise was down the table beside an aunt. My father, somewhere in the shadows near the planner, exactly where he always ended up. But me? I was an afterthought, and even that felt generous. I didn't touch the card, didn't flip it over. I just turned my chair slowly, backed away from the table, and parked myself against the far wall beside a cluster of coat racks and empty champagne flutes. The noise of the room blurred into one sound. Glasses clinking, heels tapping, laughter that didn't belong to me. Then I saw my mother emerge from the kitchen, cheeks flushed with Chardonnay and purpose. I raised my voice just enough to catch her attention. "Mom, can I talk to you for a second?" She blinked like I'd broken a spell. "Of course, honey," she said, but her smile stretched thin across her face like she already wanted the moment to be over. I gestured toward the hallway and she followed me out reluctantly, clutching her glass like it was her lifeline. "They didn't put my name on the card," I said. "It just says needs assistance." She blinked, then sighed. "Mara, I'm sure it wasn't meant that way. Don't make this into something it's not, okay? Just go with the flow. It's Sierra's day." Her words landed like stones in my stomach. I opened my mouth to reply, but she was already walking back into the dining room, heels clicking with conviction. I stayed in the hallway, not because I didn't have anything to say, but because I knew no one was listening anyway. It wasn't just about the place card. Not really. It was about the accumulation, the slow erosion of personhood under the guise of politeness. The times I'd been wheeled to the far end of the dinner table, left off the family slideshow, cropped out of Christmas cards. The way my name was replaced with labels. Brave. Inspiring. Such a trooper. Never just Mara. Never just me. Inside the dining room, the lights shimmered over polished glassware and perfectly folded napkins. The wedding planner called out times and sequences in a clipped, rehearsed voice. I rolled forward a few inches just to see better, and a cousin, I think his name was Aaron, glanced at me, then leaned over to whisper something. "Is she with catering?" The words were quiet, but not enough. Not enough to spare me. Not enough to spare him. I didn't say anything. I didn't flinch, but something inside me shifted, just slightly, just enough. My seat wasn't at the table, not emotionally, not symbolically, and apparently not even physically. They didn't forget me, they just excluded me, quietly, gently, politely. And somehow that hurt more. I backed away from the room again, wheeled into the restroom, not because I needed it, but because it was the only place I could breathe. The mirror above the sink was too clean, too honest. My face looked pale under the LED lights, and my shoulders had curled inward without me realizing. I looked like I was trying to disappear. I pressed my hands to the edge of the counter. The wood was cool, steady, real. Then I pulled out my phone. Notes app. New entry. April 21st rehearsal dinner. Place card said needs assistance. Not my name. Not a mistake. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering. Then I added, this wasn't the first time, but it will be the last time I let it happen in silence. And I hit save. The next day, the clouds over Portland hung low, like someone had pulled a damp, gray blanket across the sky. It matched the weight in my chest. Mom, Denise, insisted I ride along for one more venue visit. Final, floral adjustments, she said brightly, as if centerpieces were enough to cover everything else. I didn't argue, not because I wanted to be there, but because something in me needed to return, like a book that had skipped a chapter and wouldn't let me move on until I read it right. When we arrived, Sierra was already inside, leaning against the marble bar like she owned the place. The venue was quiet, half-decorated. Tables draped in white linen waited for attention, and the air smelled faintly of lavender and starch. I stayed near the wall, keeping my wheels silent against the floor, drifting past the tall potted plants that lined the hallway like sentries. Then I heard it. Sierra's voice, bright and casual, tossed over her shoulder like it meant nothing. Just make sure that wheelchair girl doesn't block the aisle tomorrow, she said. She wasn't whispering. She wasn't hiding. And she wasn't joking. The planner nodded, pen poised, ready to log my body as a logistical hazard. I didn't gasp. I didn't cry. I just stared at the smooth tile and clenched the rim of my wheel hard enough to press into my palm. That wheelchair girl. Not Mara. Not my sister. Just an object. An obstruction. A flower pot to move. A line item to rearrange. They didn't know I was there. Or maybe worse, they did. I backed away from the planter and rolled into the nearest restroom. Again, not because I needed to be there, but because it was the only door I could close that didn't echo. Inside, I sat still under the artificial glow, my reflection staring back with tired eyes and a fading sense of shape. I looked, not sick, not broken, just tired in that specific way your soul gets when it's been ignored too long. I pulled out my phone again. Notes app. Thumb to screen. April 22nd, that wheelchair girl. Sierra to planner. Purpose. To hide me from ceremony photos. I hit save. This wasn't just a detail now. It was a pattern, a timeline, a record of erasure. And if they weren't going to remember what they said, I would. Later that night, when we got home, Denise disappeared upstairs without a word. No offer to talk. No questions. No eye contact. I wheeled into the living room, greeted by the faint vanilla scent of a candle she forgot to blow out. The house didn't ask me how it went. It never did. But something tugged at me, a thread of habit maybe, or just memory that wouldn't leave me alone. I rolled down the hallway past where family photos used to line the walls. Then I stopped, backed up. The framed drawing was gone. When I was 11, I sketched a picture of Sierra and me standing under the red maple tree in Aunt Claire's backyard. Sierra in a long dress, me in jeans, holding hands. We were both smiling. She'd loved it, framed it herself, said it made her heart soft. That sketch had hung in that hallway for 6 years. Now it was gone. I checked the drawer under the console table. Carefully, quietly. There, beneath a stack of junk mail and 2 expired coupons, I found it, face down. The glass had a tiny crack in one corner. The backing was dusty, but the drawing was intact. Still mine. Still us. I sat with it for a while under the lamplight in my room, studying every pencil line from the version of me that still believed in shared stories. The version of me who thought a drawing could claim a place on a wall. And in a family. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just opened my journal and turned to a blank page. At the top, I wrote, things they took without asking. First entry, my drawing. Second, my design. Third, my place. And under that, in smaller letters, I underlined twice, my voice. The next morning, I watched as Sierra posted a story on Instagram, boomerang of her and Tessa clinking glasses captioned, Finally, the perfect bridal squad. Everyone tagged. Everyone grinning. Everyone but me. I wasn't even in the background. Cropped entirely. And the worst part wasn't being excluded. It was knowing they knew I'd see it. And they did it anyway. I didn't react. No comment. No reply. Just sat there, with that old ache returning. Not sharp anymore, but familiar. Like a bruise you stop touching because the pain had become part of the skin. I closed the app and leaned back, the drawing still visible on my bookshelf. My fingers reached for the pencil, but I didn't sketch. Not yet. That would come later. Right now, I had one more thing to add to my list. April 23rd Instagram post. Bridal squad. Cropped out. And below it, not forgotten. Just removed. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was upset, at least not in the way most people mean when they say that. It wasn't anger keeping me awake or tears. It was the clarity. That sharp, painful clarity that settles in when you've stopped trying to justify someone else's behavior and finally start naming it for what it is. They hadn't just excluded me. They'd rewritten the story entirely, and I'd helped write it. I'd forgotten about the folder buried in the documents drive on my laptop, but now I opened it. C+S wedding design. Inside, dozens of drafts, color palettes, layout sketches, digital illustrations, even a floral motif I'd created one afternoon while sipping tea in Aunt Claire's kitchen. Sierra had loved it. It's so grand, she'd said. The botanical garden vibes, the rose gold, it all just fits. She never asked where it came from. She just assumed her name made it hers. I pulled up the final mock-up, the one she printed on vellum paper, layered with that fancy embossed monogram. It was identical, not inspired by, not altered, just copied. No credit, no thank you, no mention. At first, I'd been thrilled to help. She'd made it feel special. "You've got such an eye," she'd said, looping an arm around my shoulders in that loose, distracted way she did when she wanted something. "It'll feel more personal if it comes from you." And I believed her. I let myself believe I was included, that my name might not be on the dress or in the bridal party, but it would be in the details, in the things I made. I should have known better. Later that morning, while the rest of the house stirred to the soft sounds of wedding countdowns and curling irons, I opened Instagram again. This time, Sierra had posted a flat lay of the invitation suite. The caption read, "Huge thanks to my incredible designer friend Olivia for the layout. Absolute perfection. Designer friend Olivia. Not a sister. Not me." I stared at the post long enough for my phone to dim. Then I scrolled back through our texts, trying to find any trace of acknowledgement. There was none. Just a few logistics about fonts, a thumbs-up emoji when I sent over the final PDF. That was it. I checked the family group chat. Still muted. Still overflowing with excitement I wasn't part of. I searched Mara just to be sure. One result from a week ago. My suggestion about the slideshow music. Tessa had replied with a sticker, a cartoon eye roll. No one defended me. No one responded. No one cared. I didn't say anything to Denise. I didn't say anything to anyone. I just opened my journal again and flipped to the list. Added a few more lines under things they took without asking. My invitations. My slideshow. My ideas. My name. Then, after a long pause, I added my voice. That afternoon, I wheeled into the sunroom, hoping for quiet, and found Dad sitting by the window with his newspaper folded in his lap. He looked up, eyes soft, distant. "You doing okay?" he asked. I nodded. Just needed air. He didn't press. He never did. But something about the way he watched me lingered, like he wanted to say more but had run out of chances. I almost asked if he knew about the place card, about the Instagram posts, about Olivia. But I didn't. I just sat beside him for a while, the kind of silence that didn't fix anything, but didn't make it worse. By evening, the group chat lit up again. "Sierra, final run-through at the vineyard tomorrow. Bridesmaids, be there by noon. Can't wait for one last magical moment before the big day." There were hearts, glitter emojis, replies from every bridesmaid. Except me. I wasn't even listed. Even though I'd built the slideshow they were rehearsing. Even though the timing of the music, the transitions between photos, the last quote at the end. Love doesn't make you whole. It reminds you you already were. Had all come from me, even though it was mine. I didn't respond. I didn't scroll. I closed the app and pulled out a blank sheet of sketch paper. Not for them. Not for the wedding. Just for me. I drew slowly, deliberately. A window. A chair. Light coming in sideways. A scene with no people in it. Just space. Just air. Just a place where someone could exist without being rearranged. I didn't sign it. Not yet. I wanted to sit with it first. I looked back at the list in my journal. At the bottom of the page, I wrote one more line. They wanted my talent, not my presence. Then I underlined it. Twice. I didn't plan it as revenge. That's important to say, even if no one believes me. It wasn't some grand scheme with a dramatic ending. There were no fireworks waiting in the wings. No exposé. Just paper. Just ink. Just things they thought I'd forgotten to hold on to. The morning of the wedding rehearsal, while the house bustled with curling irons and mimosa pitchers, I sat at my desk and began collecting. Not emotions, not pain, but proof. My sketch drafts. Screenshots from the group chat. Photos of the invitation sweet Sierra had printed without asking. Even the Instagram post thanking Olivia. And finally, the drawing from the hallway, the one of me and Sierra under the red maple tree. I'd cleaned the cracked frame the night before, wiping the dust off like it mattered. I placed everything into a plain white box. No ribbon, no card, no return address. At the very top, on a sheet of off-white cardstock, I wrote in black ink, from the one you tried to edit out. Then, carefully taped to the bottom right corner of the card, I placed a QR code, simple, clean, unbranded. When scanned, it would lead to a private video hosted on an unlisted link. No comments, no likes, no sharing, just me, my voice, my face, sitting at the same desk, filmed the night before in a single take. I didn't wear makeup. I didn't write a script. I didn't cry. I looked directly at the camera and said, "Hi, you don't have to watch this. But if you do, just know I'm not here to ruin anything. I'm just here to be remembered." Then I listed it all. The design, the slideshow, the seating, the silence. And I ended with, "You don't have to say my name, but you don't get to erase it either." It wasn't a grenade. It was a mirror. And I was done waiting for someone else to hold it up. At 8:46 a.m., I called the courier service. At 9:02, the box was picked up from my front steps. By noon, it was delivered, addressed simply to Sierra Ellison, care of the vineyard at Street Clare. I didn't go to the venue that day. Denise didn't ask me to come. Sierra didn't text. Tessa hadn't spoken to me in 3 days. Aunt Claire had sent a thumbs up to a brunch photo and nothing else. And I was fine with that. Instead, I stayed home and watched the live stream. It was muted. I didn't need to hear Sierra's vows to know what they sounded like. Pinterest perfect, checked for tone and phrasing. Nothing out of place. She wore a dress that shimmered like apology, though I knew it wasn't one. The guests clapped on cue. The officiant smiled. The bridesmaids beamed. But something about the frame felt brittle, like a picture printed too many times, losing clarity with every copy. Then, just after cocktail hour began, I saw it. On the live stream, between shots of the reception lawn and the champagne station, the planner placed a white box onto the gift table, neatly like it belonged there. I didn't blink. I just watched. Sierra reached for it sometime between her second toast and third glass of Prosecco. Tessa stood beside her, laughing, unaware. Then Sierra read the name. Then she opened the box. She pulled out the stack of prints first, the slide mock-ups, the invitation overlays, the photos from the family album I'd formatted for her montage, all labeled with the original file names, the creation dates. Then the drawing. 2 girls under a tree, hands joined, faces blank. She stared at it. Tessa leaned in. Then the note. Her lips moved. She read it, then flipped the cardstock over. The QR code stared back. She scanned it, and the video began. I couldn't hear it, but I didn't need to. I could see it in their faces. Tessa stepped back like she'd touched something hot. The planner hovered nearby, unsure. An uncle cleared his throat. A cousin glanced away. And Denise, standing near the bar with a flute in hand, froze mid-sip. No one said a word. Not right away. But something shifted, visibly, irrevocably. Sierra didn't cry. She didn't yell. She just walked away. No shoes, no explanation. Her dress dragging across the stone walkway like it didn't quite belong to her anymore. The music stumbled. The DJ adjusted the volume. The party tried to recover, but it had cracked, not collapsed, just cracked. And from the quiet of my bedroom, I watched it all, not with triumph, not with satisfaction, but with a strange, unfamiliar calm. Not because I ruined something, but because for the first time I had made myself visible. I didn't expect silence to feel so loud. The day after the wedding, the house was still. Not peaceful, just still, like the air itself was holding its breath. No texts, no calls, no knocks on my door. Even the group chat had gone quiet, 48 hours without a single ping. No photos of leftover cake, no jokes, no emojis, just digital dust settling where noise used to be. At 9:47 a.m., my phone lit up. Celine liked your video. No comment, no message, just a single act of acknowledgement from the one person who had always watched from the edges. I stared at the notification for a long time before swiping it away. Not because I didn't care, but because it was enough. Small, but enough. That afternoon, while rearranging a few books on the shelf, I heard Denise's voice drift in from the kitchen. "Do you want to come eat?" No nickname, no softened tone, just a question. I didn't answer right away. I waited, counted 3 slow seconds. She didn't repeat it. I rolled into the hallway and paused at the edge of the doorway. She was setting the table. Her plate, a second one. No names assigned. No performance. Just 2 places. "I'm not hungry," I said, voice steady. She looked over her shoulder, eyes unreadable, then nodded once. Okay. That was all. But something shifted, not in a cinematic, heart-stopping way, just slightly, like the first time you realize winter is leaving. Not warmth, but not cold anymore either. Later that evening, while the street outside buzzed with weekend traffic and porch lights flickered on one by one, my phone lit up again. "Tessa, I didn't know it was that bad. I'm sorry if I hurt you." 12 words. No punctuation. No emoji. Just silence, wrapped in syllables. I read it once, then again, then deleted it. Not out of spite, not out of anger. I just didn't need it. That version of the story, the one where I waited for someone else to make space for me, it was done. That obligation to smooth things over, to make everyone feel better, it wasn't mine to carry anymore. The group chat remained silent. Hours later, someone named Mia dropped a message. "Are we still doing dinner next week?" No one replied. I didn't either. Instead, I opened my sketchbook, not the one for assignments or commissions. The one I'd been afraid to touch since the wedding. I didn't draw the venue, or the dress, or the centerpieces. I drew what it could have been. A garden, a chair, a long table with no head, a dress that flowed but didn't pretend, and me not cropped out, not turned away, centered, visible, not for them, for me. I added the smallest detail last, my chair, but this time it wasn't a device. It was a throne, not grand, not dramatic, but solid, unapologetic, occupying space. Then I added my face, full, finished, eyes forward, and in the bottom right corner, I signed my name. Not initials, not a watermark. Mara Ellison. Clear, bold, legible. I didn't send it to anyone, didn't post it, didn't explain it. I let it sit on the desk, open, lit by the gold glow of early evening. 3 weeks passed. The sky in Portland began shifting into early summer. Softer evenings, air that smelled like warm pavement and distant blossoms. The city kept moving, and so did I. One morning, I opened my laptop and clicked on the tab I'd left untouched for months. College Application School of Visual Arts Portfolio Submission. My file was ready. Dozens of pieces pulled from late nights, quiet hurts, slow rebuilds. The final upload, a digital collage titled Uninvited Unfolding. No caption, no justification, just my name. I hovered over the button, then clicked. The screen didn't explode. My heart didn't race. I just breathed, and for the first time in a long while, it felt like enough. That afternoon, Dad showed up with 2 iced coffees and a brown paper bag of bagels. He didn't knock, just nudged the door open like he always had. Thought we could walk, he said. We didn't talk much during the first half-mile. The trail curved around a lake framed by tall trees and birdsong. Eventually, we sat on a bench under a wide maple. He took a sip from his cup, then looked out across the water. If speaking up made you lose them, he said, they were never really yours to begin with. I didn't answer right away, but I knew what he meant. He wasn't talking about Sierra, or Tessa, or even Denise. He meant all of it. All the years I'd been taught to take up less space, to be grateful, to stay quiet, and I had, until I didn't. When we got home, a letter was waiting in the mailbox. No return address, but I knew the handwriting. Inside was a card. You taught me how to see again. Love, Claire. Taped below was a miniature sketch. Me, in my chair, laughing, not posed, not performing, just living. I placed it on my desk, beside the drawing of the throne, a reminder that not all silence is absence, and not every ending needs to be loud. They started a story without me, but I rewrote the ending anyway, not to hurt them, not to prove them wrong, but to make sure I didn't disappear from my own pages. They may have worn the dresses, given the toasts, held the mic, but I held the mirror, and sometimes that's the loudest thing in the room.